My name is Dan Blondal. I'm the CEO of Nano One Materials Corp. We are a clean technology company. We're changing how the world makes cathode active materials for lithium-ion batteries. We have applications. Our materials would be used in electric vehicles, stationary energy storage systems, consumer electronics. Our patented one-pot process reduces costs, carbon intensity, energy intensity, environmental footprint, and reliance on foreign supply chains of concern. Scalability is proven in a pilot demonstration facility we have in Quebec, where we are demonstrating lithium iron phosphate pilot production. And it is the only facility and expertise of its kind outside of Asia. We have support from the governments of Canada, United States, British Columbia, Quebec, and we have strategic investments in collaboration with Rio Tinto and Sumitomo Metal Mining, and we have a strategic alliance with Worley, a global engineering, chemicals, and resource engineering company, and we are collaboratively developing, marketing, and licensing one-pot-enabled cathode manufacturing facilities for the world. Hopefully that gives you everyone a good review.
It does. It certainly does, and it's good to see. And you're just the man for the job, because I was wondering what 2025 would throw at us. And I think one of the first things I saw straight out of the gate was the fact the Chinese government are trying to get a grip on the kind of critical minerals supply, and specifically looking at curbing some of the technology exporting around that. One, are you aware of that story? And two, what do you make of it? And I guess, what does it mean for you guys?
I guess we're seeing very much the same thing, and have lots of incoming calls about it. In a nutshell, China is proposing a selective export market ban on processing technology, and that includes know-how, likely it includes equipment, and it is specific to the preparation of lithium iron phosphate and its derivatives, and also its inputs. So that includes lithium carbonate, iron phosphate, phosphorus. That's kind of what they're focused on. It is, as background, China makes about 99% of the world's LFP, and it's well over 70% of their market share in China. And that's because it is the lowest cost and longest lasting of all the battery materials out there. And from an energy density and range point of view, it's on par now with NMC. This policy is really not a big surprise. It's a wake-up call on the importance of LFP and China's dominance thereof. It should be a wake-up call on the risks of relying on cheap Chinese technology, because they're pulling back on it. And ultimately, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how LFP will come to the world. So, we really need to pull up our socks and address that market in a meaningful way. Invest in technology, invest in stuff that can actually compete with China.
Right. It's kind of interesting. You got China on one hand doing that, and then you've got the U.S. government in the shape of the Defense Department, I guess Department of Defense. Also, I mean, I think they've recently basically said CATL, CATL, Chinese company, they are designating them as military companies, Chinese military companies. So the U.S. government's making it harder. The Chinese government is making it harder, and the guys operating in the space are just trying to work out what's going on and how they operate. I mean, do you see these sorts of moves positive for you and your company, and does this change the landscape in which you're going to operate, and if so, how?
It's definitely a very fluid landscape, and we're seeing, obviously tit for tat responses. China does make policy change every January 1st. It happens every year, and this one happens to be very specific to LFP. And I think it actually very much works in our favor, and that's because our patented one-pot process and pilot facilities and our licensing strategy with Worley is really kind of perfectly positioned to address it. And that's because it's homegrown. We've got 48 patents now issued around the world. It's waste-free, and it's fully decoupled from China's dirtier supply chains. And that makes us immune to China's trade and technology controls. And that really does put a lot of wind in our sails. And it will direct a lot more interest in Nano One's licensing strategy, because we can enable players in the space to use our technology and to build businesses that are decoupled from these risks. And that's super important, I think, going forward. And we're already starting to see incoming calls on it, and we expect to see quite a bit more as the dust settles on all this and it all starts to materialize.
Okay, and if I also look at the kind of customer landscape here, for instance, cathode, Tesla is uses them for battery supply. So it's going to be very difficult, and I guess you're going to have to be quite selective and very aware of this kind of adversarial type environment in which you do business when you're selecting LFP partners or similar. So again, do you feel that your potential customers are going to have a little rethink about where they go?
Well, certainly, anyone in the LFP space right now who was relying on Chinese technology, let's say, to ramp up their systems, be they in the battery space or in the in the cathode space, they're going to have a serious rethink of it, because it's a lot riskier now than it was a month ago. We could see this coming for a long time. It's no surprise to us that Chinese kind of put a policy in place like this. We didn't know what it was going to look like, of course, but no surprise to us. So that will direct those companies are going to have to rethink it, and we're certainly on the market right now promoting our technology and our license packages with Worley. So it will bring people into us. What I think it will change is maybe the nature of some of those customers. Some of them, we're already talking to people in the Indo-Pacific region. We're talking to people on the European side, the African side, and in North America right now, to mobilize our technology, to build a growth strategy, to leverage what we have in Quebec, which is in our Candiac facility, to demonstrate the technology and to sample out materials so that you can move pretty quickly, because we've already got a pilot facility essentially up and running. And the DoD and defense money that's kind of directed towards Nano One is very much in line with what you described. They recognize that there is a security risk here that has to be fixed, and to do that, you've got to promote homegrown technology and homegrown companies that are decoupled from China. So having all of those pieces in place, having the support from the government, recognizing there are big industrial energy and materials companies looking for technology that will give them that advantage. Those are all kind of lined up and playing out. It's doesn't happen overnight, but we've certainly been putting those pieces in place for a long time, and this latest move by China really puts wins in our sails for that. So.
Right, and then the sort of language being used. I mean, clearly the security, i.e., the knowledge that the governments and players, within Western countries can access this when they need to, is more important than price, would you say? I mean, how are people prioritizing and interpreting that element of this equation?
Well, at some point, I mean, look, there's going to be, if the tariff war continues to sort of escalate, the cost of, let's say, buying LFP or buying LFP batteries from China and putting them in our devices over here is going to get more and more expensive. And if we can make materials and batteries here locally without a tariff regime, presumably there's an arbitrage opportunity here where there could be outsized margins as we build up the market. So I think that's good for all of the incumbent companies that are trying to build locally. So yes, I think there's going to be a natural there's going to be a natural sort of elevation in price that will probably help drive the market. Ultimately, you need to get the volume to be cost competitive, and that's going to require sizable markets to drive those volumes and get cost competitive. What we're bringing to the table is something, with our one pot process and the plant we're designing, we're roughly 30% of the capex, 30% of the opex in reductions, or 30% less in both those cases, and 80% less energy. So we do bring a very competitive and compelling product and plant to the market, but it needs investment, and it needs it needs commitment, and you need to build the volume up in order to really make it effective. And that requires the support, of course, of the DoD and the governments and everything else to kickstart it all in place. But that's how we see the market coming out. Eventually, cathode and high volume production it's a low margin, high volume game. That's what we have to anticipate. And in the beginnings of it, we will see higher margins, but ultimately, we need to get the massive volumes to make this really work and get it really humming.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me when I kind of look at the landscape and potentially the implications of this. If you think that the US has been really clear, cattle has potentially automotive companies which are using cattle batteries, LFP batteries, are going to think about, well, we need a plan B, because plan A implications of that are increased cost, tariffs, potentially worse. US department contracts will not be heading their way. So there's a knock-on and ripple effect there. Implications for you, though, potentially. Tell me more, please. Is that different types of money, which thought they were settled and fine and they had their supply chains sort of, are going to have to very quickly work out, I say, plan B, new routes to market, new access to market, and those sorts of conversations. I'm sure you'd be quite keen to have. So how do you see this? How do you play this in 2025 on that basis, on that part of the equation?
Well, one thing, I mean, we have some irons already in the fire, and I would say in all cases, this sort of change in policy from China works in our favor and strengthens it, and may even accelerate the decisions that are being made. So I think we just we stick to our guns. We continue to execute on everything we're doing. We try to move faster to address those needs, try to push those deals across the line faster. So I think that's what 2025 has to be focused on. It doesn't change anything we're doing, because we were already doing everything to decouple from China anyways. But what it does do is it changes really it changes the appetite, the impetus, and the speed at which our potential customers want to move at. It also will bring in new customers, because there's going to be people who have to pivot on their strategy. They were thinking, oh well, we'll just import that from China, or we'll partner with Chinese company XYZ to make it here in North America, and that those opportunities are going to evaporate. And then you add that to the fact that the Chinese technologies are really difficult to set up in Western context because of the environmental issues. So we resolve both of those issues, both the supply chain coupling and the waste streams. If you can resolve both those, suddenly you make a much more scalable plant and a much more scalable supply chain. Compared to what you could do by importing from China. You take out all those risks and off the table. And that's, of course, it requires investment in technology. It requires companies to take technology risks. They can't take the low cost, inexpensive route of, copying what's done in China anymore. It's simply going to be off the table.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure as the year goes by, we'll kind of see what the knock-on effects are, because there'll be other companies like TDK maybe using some of the cattle technology in there. Will they be affected by this? Will products that you use their services be affected? So it's a really big deal. That's why I wanted to speak to you and sort of see what your thoughts are. It's still early days, but let's stay in touch and keep on top of this one, because I think the knock-on effect for companies like yourself being able to take advantage of this could be significant.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Matthew. Appreciate the interest and the ongoing storytelling here. I think this is super important. Dust certainly has to settle, but we're looking very favorably at the way it's all evolving.